All right. Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year's. We are closing out 2020 in the best way possible. Why not? Let's just do a giant, massive award show, everybody. Sounds like a good time to me. Welcome to the first ever annual, at least we hope so, unless we screwed this up, the first ever annual SKammy Awards here on SK Wrestling. I am Rick Ucchino, joined today by Jose G, Jeremy Bennett, and Denise Salcedo, as we are going to break down this year's awards that were nominated by us here at SK and voted on by you, the people. So if your person or persons did not win, you got no one to blame but yourself. Guys, how are we doing this afternoon? Well, excuse me, this evening. New Year's, 8 p.m. tonight. Let's go. Let's get it going.
New Year's, woo! Finally, it has come.
2020.
Yeah, let me tell you, man, we finally made it through all 12 levels of 2020. I'm looking forward to 2021. Hopefully, not to get political, but hopefully these vaccines don't turn everyone to zombies. So,
grow a tail.
Yeah, right. Here's to a great 2021,
guys.
Well, let's hope this isn't the 13th level of 2020 in January.
I was going to say, let's just believe me, things can always get worse. They can always get worse. And let's be honest, 2020 isn't really going to end until July of 2021 or maybe even later. So let's explain how this is going down, guys. So we decided to do this award show this year, and we came up with 10 categories. And us here at SK, we have a very big staff. We took a straw poll. Everybody voted on everything. And using the top 4 votes for each category, we came up with our nominees this year. And then you, the fans out there, you voted on the SK Twitter, or at least I hope you did. And now we are going to release the winners here today. So again, we have 10 categories, and we're just going to talk them down right now. And we will start with one. We're going to, for the most part, we're going to remain positive, right? But this is a new year. And, you always want to look back and own up to the mistakes that you've made, so you don't make them again, right? You want to learn, you want to grow. So I think it's important to have this category here. I hate when people do the worst this or the worst that, but we had to do it here. We are doing the worst booking decision of 2020. And by the way, this isn't just WWE. This is AEW. This is Impact. This is New Japan. All promotions were up for nominations, or you could vote for them this year. So everybody is in one big pot. So we're going to have AEW competing against WWE and likewise. So we came up with worst booking decision of the year. And believe it or not, guys, there was a lot of votes for the same 4. I'll just say that much. And they were all WWE. So the nominees this year: unnecessary WWE breakups, i.e. The New Day, the Iconics, Heavy Machinery, Mandy Rose, and Otis. Retribution, just all of Retribution. Charlotte Flair beating Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania 36, and Goldberg defeating The Fiend for the Universal title in Saudi Arabia, which seems like forever and a day ago. So normally I'm going to pitch this off to one of you guys to start, but this is the only one where I'm going to jump out and say, hands down, The Fiend losing was the worst booking decision of 2020. Are we freaking kidding me? You took the hottest act in the company, somebody who literally survived an electrocution to win the Universal Championship, and you fed him to a 50-year-old who hit 3 spears and the worst jackhammer I've ever seen in my life, just so you could hotshot the title to Roman Reigns a month later, and he didn't even end up winning the title at WrestleMania. This whole thing was botched from the get-go. It was a bad booking decision. I'm not saying there isn't a place for Bill Goldberg in WWE anymore, but it is not winning the Universal Championship off of one of your hottest stars. They've done this twice now. They did it to Kevin Owens. They did it to Bray Wyatt, and I'm hoping they don't do it to anybody again. Let him beat up the Dolph Zigglers and the Brock Lesnars of the world all you want. That is fine. He doesn't need to be anywhere near a championship. It's burying your younger talent. This happened back in February, and it still ticks me off, as you can tell. Denise, I know you're ready to hop on this one because you are a Goldberg fan.
I am a Goldberg fan, and while, again, I definitely do not agree with the decision that was made there, I still have to say that a lot of people were very, very unfair to Goldberg, and were making it seem like it was the man's decision. I'm like, bro, calm down. It wasn't like Goldberg was the one that said, let me beat the Fiend. No, he did not. And so after that, I was more upset of all the hatred that came out of this towards Goldberg, and I was like, bro, again, it's not his fault. And at the end of the day, to me, in my honest unbiased opinion, and I know a lot of people are probably not going to feel the same way, but I don't care. I still definitely think that Goldberg is a draw. He still has a lot of power because at the end of the day, he is God dang Goldberg. But that's not my pick for my worst. My worst was actually the fact that they had Rhea Ripley lose to Charlotte and that there was zero follow-up. That was actually my least favorite booking decision of the year.
All right, Jeremy.
You know, it really pained me to see The Fiend get taken down like that because he was really built to be the next Undertaker. He was built to be that special attraction. He kind of still is now, but that just really took all the steam out of The Fiend. It took all the mystique out of The Fiend because before that, he was invincible. Look what Seth Rollins did to him before that. He literally had to kill him to even have a chance to beat him. And then Goldberg, you know, couple of moves and we're out. It wasn't actually my vote though. My vote was Retribution just because it was a long-term failure. This was a 2-minute failure, though it had long-term repercussions. The Fiend kind of bounced back a little from it. What will happen after he rises from the ashes, no pun intended, is going to remain to be seen. But Retribution had promise in the beginning, and then immediately once they were on screen, the writing was so terrible, it just continued to snowball and snowball all the way through the year. The only good thing that came about it was making Mustafa Ali the leader, but then it came back to being bad. And so that was where it got my vote.
All right, Jose.
So for me, my worst booking decision of the year, the one that I voted for, excuse me, was actually Goldberg defeating the Fiend. And I have tremendous respect for Goldberg. I mean, I think he's definitely one of the biggest icons in the last 20 to 30 years in the industry. And if you guys have watched any of his documentary on the network, I mean, you will definitely gain a lot of respect. But I just feel from a booking standpoint, you know, you have a character that's red hot, like the Fiend, just like Jeremy said, who's going to be like the guy that's going to take the Undertaker's mantle and kind of be that next character. And you make him lose and you take off the title off of him in Saudi Arabia. So I'm with you, Rick. I think that's the worst booking decision. But I don't have, I completely respect Bill Goldberg, but I just feel like, and again, just like Denise said, he's not at fault here. He doesn't make that decision. But just the way that it was presented, and for us guys that are just analyzing and watching this, I just thought that was a spit in the face to us.
Yeah, and look, and and I'm glad Denise brought that up because I'm not mad at Bill Goldberg. Like I can't be mad at any of his decisions. He's not the booker, and that's the biggest overall thing, you know, with the Fiend getting beaten by Goldberg, and Jeremy, as you brought up with Retribution, you know, they just don't go out of their way to explain how or why things happen. And then you have people like Bray Wyatt who go on Twitter, or people like Mustafa Ali who go on Twitter to try and make, you know, chicken salad out of chicken, you know what, and try to explain it to the audience where you're never going to get it on television. And that's where I think is the biggest problem. If they would have just given me an explanation for how Goldberg was able to beat Bray Wyatt so easily when Seth Rollins couldn't, because you buried not only Bray Wyatt, but you buried Seth Rollins in there. Like, I'll never forget Seth Rollins' tweet after that matchup. He was like, man, all I had to do was do a jackhammer. I wish I would have known that in the first place. And Goldberg didn't even hit the jackhammer right. Like, anyway, so
WWE has a problem with that, though. Just look at NXT just last week with that street fight, the tag team. Like, people are like, why are they tagging in? And a referee had to go on Twitter and explain it. WWE has a history of not explaining things on television, and people have to, you know, question it, and then people go on Twitter. You know, if they would just explain things on TV, it would help a lot.
I wholeheartedly agree. So again, our nominees this year were Charlotte Flair over Rhea Ripley, Retribution, unnecessary WWE breakups, and Goldberg defeating the Fiend in Saudi Arabia. And the winner of the first ever SKammy is... Yeah, no surprise. It was Goldberg defeating the Fiend for the Universal Championship in Saudi Arabia. And it was not even close. This received 54.8% of the votes. The next closest, Jeremy, was Retribution at 20.7%. So there you go. The first ever SKammy Award goes to Bray Wyatt and Goldberg. Well, actually, it goes to WWE Creative because, again, they were the ones that were at fault.
Yeah, who's this getting mailed to, Rick? You gotta be clear. We're just talking about being clear.
I guess. Who is
should go to the Fiend?
I guess. I don't know. Whoever produced that matchup, y'all messed up. All right. So
it says a lot that the people remember this from February too.
And look, this is the last thing I'm going to say on this. Goldberg beats the Fiend in Saudi Arabia and the freaking world ends. I'm just saying, I'm not saying it was the catalyst to anything, but let's remember this happened in February. Everything was cooking with gas. Everything was fine. And then
boom,
everything went to hell. I'm just saying.
Rick, COVID was already here in this world in February. Don't be blaming that.
Oh, it was here, but it ramped up after that. It was like it's like some cosmic force saw that go down and say, you know what? Nope, that's it. Humanity's over.
It mutated from there.
All right. Moving on. So this is a category that actually kind of morphed. I need to explain this because when we sent it out to the writers, we asked for best promo, specifically promo of the year. And we just got too many different ones. But the thing was, we got so many different ones from the same people. So this award actually morphed into best overall promo work for 2020. And the nominees are Roman Reigns, Edge, Sonya Deville, and one AEW representative here in Eddie Kingston. So, Jeremy, I will start with here. Doesn't necessarily have to be a nominee, but who would you give this award to?
Man, all of these are worthy, and we mentioned this before we got on the air. Cody Rhodes should get a nod as well.
He really should.
Yeah. Sonya Deville was my vote because I truly felt her promo this year with her feud with Mandy Rose. I just it struck a chord, and you felt like, okay, this is some breakthrough stuff right here. This is a star in the making. Unfortunately, things happened in her personal life that kind of derailed things, but that promo, you just felt the emotion, and you saw Twitter blow up on it too, and that's why it got my vote.
Yeah, and I literally interviewed Sonya Deville like 2 days before all of that stuff went down. And, we talked about her promo stuff and how she had really earned the trust of WWE Creative to go out there and cut those promos and have a lot of say in her promo ability. And that showed you the rise that she really was on in the company. And, it came down to a tie-breaking scenario of which person was going to make the final nominee. And I did vote for Sonya Deville to put her in because I believe that her work this year, I mean, that was a feud with Mandy Rose that lasted from I feel like February all the way through until the hair versus hair, the loser leaves WWE match. And it was good all the way through the year. It was good. And a lot of that had to do with Sonya Deville's delivery and just the realism that she expressed on the microphone. And that's why she got my vote as well. Denise, your who would get your nod?
So I agree with you on Sonya Deville. However, my vote was actually Randy Orton. And I feel that the Randy Orton Edge situation, it's kind of like you can go for either or. But I went with Randy Orton just because I felt that he really, this was the year for me that he stood out differently than he had in previous years. So I had to give it to Randy Orton. However, my runner-up afterwards was definitely Cody Rhodes and Eddie Kingston. I definitely think that those are also guys that very much deserve this award. And while I'm at it here, maybe also MJF too. I think he should have also been included as well. So I'm very happy that there were a lot of options for this one.
Yeah. The tiebreaker for the nominee came down to Randy Orton and Sonya Deville, and I put Sonya Deville in. So that was my vote. So Randy was right there with the writers. But yeah, Cody Rhodes did not get a single vote from anybody on the SK staff, which is mind-boggling to me, and definitely deserves an honorable mention. I'm sitting here tabulating the votes, and I'm like, had I known this, I would have voted for Cody. But I wanted Sonya.
Right, you could have told us. We would have put in some fake votes in there.
I think maybe with thinking of a singular promo is what made it harder. If you thought of whoever delivered the best promos of the year, maybe that's where thinking of Cody might have been a little more in there. But when you're thinking of singular promos, that's where Sonya kind of stood out a little more.
Right, and I would agree with that. So when for 2021, the 2021 Scammies, we'll make sure to preface this one a little bit better. Jose, who would be your pick for this one?
So I feel like for 2020, it's definitely been the year of all these guys in the industry honing on their promo craft. You see it on both sides. You see it on AEW. You see it on WWE. One great example on someone who has definitely gotten better on their promos is Roman Reigns. Yeah. If you guys remember when he was a babyface, how he just got shat on left and right by the fans, by the critics, and even he was trying to do his best. He was just not getting over. And now that he's doing what he wants to do the way he's doing it, I think he's just really delivered ever since he's been back from SummerSlam. So, Roman Reigns is right up there in my vote, and that's who I picked. Randy Orton, definitely a close second. Randy Orton definitely has one of the best years he's had in his career over the last 10 to 15 years he's been with the company, or more than that. So yeah, Roman Reigns definitely most improved promo for 2020.
It's hard to go anywhere but up when you're getting lines like "suffering succotash" on television to try and get that over. But yeah, them actually just letting Roman Reigns be this badass that we've all known he has the potential to be, and just be like this mob boss. And we'll talk about his rivalry with Jey Uso, because that's coming up in another category. But yeah, it's been some of the best stuff I've seen in wrestling, not just in 2020, but this stuff between him and his cousin has been fantastic. And I would not be upset if he was the winner at all. Just a real quick mention, one person we haven't brought up, Edge, before he went down with his injury. My Lord, the dude, there was like a battle there for a while where like it was every Monday and Wednesday, Edge would deliver a great promo, and then Cody would follow up, and then it would be Edge the next Monday, and then it would be Cody again. And those two they had a battle early on in the year. I think I think that got lost in the fact that 2020 felt like 10 years, and everybody just kind of forgot about, Edge, because he's been off of television for a while. But again, our nominees for this award were Roman Reigns, Edge was a nominee, Eddie Kingston, and Sonya Deville. And the SKammy Award goes to the big dog. Roman Reigns wins the award with 59.7% of the vote. Does that surprise anybody out there that he got that much of the vote?
No, because I think he's been doing his best promo work more at the end of the year, the latter end of the year. So I think it's more in people's minds than maybe some of the other guys.
All right.
It's every week too. So
yeah, and it is. And it's been good. It's different, and it's just new, and just the way that he delivers it too. And I think having no audience this year has really kind of helped hone down or really helped elevate the promos, because they can get more quiet, and they can get more, for lack of a better word, intimate with the camera and talk, and they don't have to shout over a crowd all the time. It creates a lot of peaks and valleys and highs and lows, and I think it's really helped a lot of people. Moving on, our next category is Faction of the Year. And the nominees were, and this was pretty much a landslide for all four. We didn't get a single vote for anybody else. The Hurt Business, the Undisputed Era, the Inner Circle, and the Dark Order. Jose, I believe I have not started with you yet, so your winner for this category would be whom?
So in this particular category, I was so divided between the two, in my opinion, the two best factions right now in wrestling, Undisputed Era and the Hurt Business. The Undisputed Era has a track record for the last 3 years, fulfilling their prophecy, getting championship gold in NXT. The Hurt Business is relatively new. They've been out probably a little bit more than 6 or 7 months now. Now we have the full faction of 4 of them. Now we have 3 champions in the Hurt Business. So they're well on their way up to getting to that Undisputed Era level. So my vote will be for the Undisputed Era.
See, and I agree with you that this was hard for me between all 4 to be, well, at least the top 3 for me, but I went with the Hurt Business for a very specific reason, because last year, were we talking about any 4 of these guys?
Not at all.
At all. MVP wasn't even in the company. Bobby Lashley was, by the way, I think we're a year what was it, yesterday or today? We're a year away from the Liv Morgan Lana love angle. So Bobby Lashley was getting married to Lana in the ring and doing that thing with Rusev. That's what he was doing at this time last year. Shelton Benjamin wasn't on television, and Cedric Alexander couldn't get off of 205 Live. And now all of a sudden we're talking about these four guys led by MVP have taken over and helped carry Monday Night Raw. They have the United States Championship. Bobby Lashley is being booked as strong as he ever has been. Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin are now the tag team champions. And who knows, maybe they'll get the WWE Championship, in their midst sometime soon. Maybe Keith Lee joins them. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But they have dominated. They have helped carry Raw. And again, just the fact that these were four guys that nobody was talking about, could barely get on television last year. One wasn't even in the company, and they've taken over. It's hurt business for me. Denise?
Well, Rick, I like all of your points here, but I'm going to have to fight you on this one because correct me if I'm wrong, but this was faction of the year, not breakout faction of the year. So I think that you are more breakout faction of the year. So I'm going to have to agree with Jose on this one. It is the Undisputed Era, and I think Jose said it best as to why.
All right, Jeremy.
I felt like Undisputed Era had a down year compared to other years that they've been in the business. Now, the Hurt Business, I have loved the booking of the Hurt Business. And Cedric Alexander is breaking out finally after being, kind of in what Ricochet is going through right now, being in a booking doghouse, so to speak. So to me, I voted for the Inner Circle because at the time, we had the Elite once Dynamite started up in October of last year, and the Inner Circle was the perfect foil for the Elite at the time. Perfect five guys for it as well. You have obviously the legend in Chris Jericho, one of the better tag teams in the company in Ortiz and Santana. Obviously, the surprise with Jake Hager showing up, and then of course the upstart with Sammy Guevara. And they, outside of Santana and Ortiz, not really picking up steam for the tag titles like I hoped they would, they had a tremendous year. Adding MJF and Wardlow almost kind of started to seem NWO-like to me.
Yeah, but
it's still, at least they didn't keep adding members after that. And so for me, to me, Undisputed Era was down a little bit. Hurt Business is more of a breakout. So for me, it was Inner Circle.
Yeah, I love Undisputed Era. I'd love to see them, break some new ground, maybe move up to Monday Night Raw. I know a lot of people are hesitant about NXT stars moving up. But Hurt Business and Undisputed Era going after each other, I think that could be really, really fun. But I agree with you. I think not that they've had a bad year, but just it doesn't compare to the prior two that they've had before that, even though they keep performing at the highest level. So it was really close, and it was really close in the voting as well. This is the closest one that we have had to date, but the winner faction of the year goes to the
baby.
I was honestly shocked that the Inner Circle, as popular as they are, did not get as many votes. They only got 12.4%. Dark Order got 6.9%. But Undisputed Era won this one 41.6 to 39.1. So that was really, really, really close. Your reaction, guys?
This is my first time my pick has actually won an award, so I'm happy. Air high five, Jose, because we were on the same boat here.
Yeah.
You feel like you won an award.
Yeah, so I'm gonna accept it on behalf of everybody.
I'd like to gracefully accept this award on behalf of the Undisputed Era. Sorry.
Yeah, we'll send this one out to you.
I will say they did come back, starting with the McAfee feud. The old era kind of started coming back.
Yes, and we might talk about Pat McAfee coming up here in a little bit. But now it is time to move on to Rivalry of the Year. And there were this one we got a lot of different votes on, and there were a couple that stood out for sure, but there were a lot of 2 for this one, 2 for this one, 3 for this one, 2 for this one. So it really racked up. But the top 4 vote getters from the SK staff this year were Sasha Banks and Bayley, Roman Reigns and Jey Uso, Edge and Randy Orton, and Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston. So Jeremy, we will start with you. Who would your choice for this award be? Remember, it doesn't necessarily have to be a nominee.
My vote was actually Roman Reigns and Jey Uso. To me, it was the best written thing on WWE television this year. It had all the elements that you want in a storyline. It had, you just felt it. You just could believe that it was just a family issue that was so intense and it was just such a fight that you could believe in. And every week it was just so interesting to see Jey Uso rise up from being a tag team player to being a guy that main event. I mean, Paul Heyman pointed this out, and I didn't even realize that he had main evented SmackDown for like 6 or 7 straight weeks.
Yeah.
And it was just so cool to see a guy that was relegated to being, well, I mean, he was one of the best. It's going to be one of the best tag teams of this generation. But now look at him as a single star, and I wish they would do that with Eric and the Viking Raiders. But it doesn't look like they're going to. Well, obviously he's on the shelf right now, but it goes to show
that's been WWE's MO for a while. Like if somebody gets hurt, they're gone. Like remember, Jeff Hardy got hurt right after he and Matt won the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. You got Matt Hardy, one of the most creative minds in the business, sat on the bench. They didn't use him.
But it was for me, it was far and away the best written storyline of the year.
Jose.
Man, my rivalry of the year, Bayley and Sasha Banks. They took the entire year with this entire shit year and made something out of it. And those women just shined the majority of 2020 from the later part of spring through the summer, all the way down to Hell in the Cell. Man, those two just went at it, either being a team, going against each other. They were dominating Raw and SmackDown and NXT. I mean, I can't think of another 2 women or wrestlers or performers that has been able to do that in 1 year. And these 2 women did it, not only by teaming up with each other, by going up against each other. So my vote, the golden role models, Bayley and Sasha Banks.
All right, Denise, who you rolling with on this one?
I'm livid. I'm livid that my pick didn't make it onto the top nominees. Okay.
I saw your face earlier.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I was waiting for you to say my pick and you did it. I was appalled. So my pick was definitely Drew McIntyre, Randy Orton. And the reason for that is that Drew McIntyre had a banger of a year. The guy won the Royal Rumble, became champion, defeated Brock Lesnar, you name it. But all that afterwards, you have to have competitors to keep growing your champion, to keep elevating your champion. And we didn't have that for a second for Drew McIntyre. And then came along Randy Orton, and he elevated Drew McIntyre so much. And they went back and forth, and they had some pretty entertaining matches. So for me, my pick, and they should have been nominated, definitely Drew and Randy.
Yeah.
How did that not get nominated?
Well, Randy and Edge got nominated. That's why we got more votes for Randy and Edge than we did
really
for McIntyre. Yep. Real quick, my vote. I'm going to break away from the WWE love here. I have gone back and forth on this one a lot between the same 3, and I'm going to go with Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston. I am. I think it was a very quick 6-week program that we really didn't. If it wasn't for Lance Archer testing positive for COVID-19, we wouldn't even have gotten it. And it had everything you wanted. I mean, some of the best promo work that you could ever want. The exchange between these two culminated in that I Quit match between them. I loved everything about it. It's one of those things that just kind of really resonated with me. But another one that hasn't gotten a whole lot of love here, I got to bring it up again, is Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville. Yeah. And I bring that up for one specific reason, because this was when I thought back, I'm trying to think back of all the rivalries we've seen this year. And the one that I got most excited to see every week, that I wanted to tune into SmackDown to see, was how they were going to take that next step with Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville. And when they weren't on TV, because there was a stretch where they were gone for like 6 weeks, it made me mad. It just ticked me off that they weren't on television. I wanted to see more of that feud. So for that, I almost gave them my vote, but I had to go with Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston. But the winner of the rivalry of the year went to one that we didn't talk about. None of us voted for it, but the fans did. Edge and Randy Orton.
Oh my God. Wow.
The SKammy for Rivalry of the Year. 37% of the vote. Roman Reigns and Jey Uso a close second at 28.7. Sasha Banks and Bayley 27.3, and then my pick 6.9%.
You want to know why, Rick? I have the answer for you. Because they had the greatest wrestling match ever.
Ever.
Thank you. Air quotes.
The greatest wrestling match ever that WWE themselves voted the third best match of 2020.
I have a bone to pick with everybody here. While this was great, I still think that all of our other options might have been just a tad little better. But at the same time, though, their promo work was incredible. And when we were talking about some of the best promo works of the years, which we just covered, we mentioned both of these men. So
yeah, absolutely. And I have a feeling we're going to talk about Edge some more here as we go to our next category, which is moment of the year. This could literally have been anything: a match, a victory, a promo segment, a pop, a return, whatever you want. Return of the year was always the one that a lot of the other sites and WWE put out there, but moment of the year, that one that just sticks with you, that you think about and you just still get the goosebumps on your arm. And our nominees for this year, voting from the SK staff, was Becky Lynch announcing her pregnancy on Raw and relinquishing the Women's Championship to Asuka. The Undertaker retiring at Survivor Series. Sting making his return to TNT and AEW. That happened quite recently. And Edge making his shocking return at the Royal Rumble. I'm going to go ahead and start on this one. It's Edge in a landslide. Like, when his music hit, and I'm my hair's standing up right now. When his music hit, the crowd lost their mind. He's running all over the place. And it was that moment that just got me was then when he walks through the smoke, right? And that wasn't Edge we were looking at. That was Adam Copeland. That was the guy. He looked like he was about to cry. He was so happy and he was so overwhelmed with the reaction that he got. And then, finally he clicked it back into Edge mode. He got that look on his face. He threw his arms up. The pyro went off everywhere. I'm hitting my mic like I always do. And then he gets the jacket off, and then WWE screws up by missing his first spear on Dolph Ziggler. Maybe that's moment of the year. But for me, hands down, Edge coming back after 10 years out of the business, something we never thought we'd see again. And you'll have the people out there, the smart people who say, "Oh, I knew he was coming." This was one of those things I was never going to believe any rumor whatsoever until it actually happened, and it actually happened, and it was the moment of 2020 for me. Jose.
So Edge returning at the Royal Rumble earlier this year was definitely one of the most standout moments for 2020. However, if you ask me which one was the most memorable moment of the year, I am going to have to go back to the 2020 Royal Rumble, but it's Drew eliminating Brock Lesnar. That pop that we heard in the stadium, and I will debate anyone, that pop was louder than Edge's return. If you go back and watch that entire match and you see the moment when Ricochet hits Brock Lesnar with the low blow, Drew McIntyre goes for the Claymore. As soon as that Claymore hits and Brock Lesnar hits the ground, dude, I'm getting goosebumps remembering that and watching that and just seeing like, okay, this is the guy. This is the guy that's going to represent the company. This is the guy that we're going to put the whole company on his back for the next few years. Drew McIntyre eliminating Brock Lesnar at the Royal Rumble.
We talked earlier about the worst booking decision of the year. That was probably the best booking decision of the year because they could not have built that moment more brilliantly by having Brock Lesnar just build up heat for what seemed like 3 hours, eliminating, fan favorites. Like when Big E went out there and he unified the troops and got in there and he just throws all three of them over there like it's no problem. He almost killed John Morrison for crying out loud, the poor guy. He's just decimating people left and right. And you're like, he's going to just go coast to coast. He's going to run the whole thing. People were actually genuinely getting mad. Well, I'm loving every second of it. I'm like, this is the best.
I loved it.
This is the best booked Royal Rumble I've ever seen. And then, you get Ricochet with the low blow. He gets a little bit of measure of revenge, and then Drew kicks him over the top. Yeah, the place absolutely exploded. That was brilliantly produced and brilliantly booked and built that moment for Drew McIntyre. You were the only one who voted for it. Jeremy, Jeremy, who are you going with?
I went in a completely different direction. Obviously, Edge, that moment is always going to be remembered forever. And obviously it's one of those last moments with a crowd, you know, and just the whole Rumble. I mean, it was one of the better Rumbles in a while. But I actually voted for Becky Lynch's pregnancy announcement because it was something that we haven't seen in WWE. In wrestling, one of the top people stepping down, she's one of the top wrestlers, period, man or woman, and she's stepping down because she's going to have a baby. And you know, it was just a genuine moment. And, you know, and Asuka's pure shock, you know, the pure shock in the ring of finding out at the moment as well. And so it was a unique moment for me, and that's just because it was such a unique and unique and emotional moment is why I voted for it.
I had a lot of emotions. As anybody who can tell, I'm a big Becky Lynch guy, so I had a lot of emotions in that moment. But I don't know. I still went with Edge. It made me feel happier. Denise.
Rick, I don't agree with you very often, but I have one word for you. Edge. Yes! It was definitely the Edge moment, 100%, because that is the one moment where I can go back right now in my mind and place myself in the exact moment where I was in the house watching that, the exact thoughts that I had watching that. And so I remember that moment crystal clear, and it was one of the last feel-good moments that we had this year and before the world went to shambles for us here. So definitely Edge.
Yeah, I same. I remember I literally jumped off of my recliner and did a quiet scream with my hands clenched in my fist because, you know, my daughter was asleep and I didn't want to wake her up and, you know, not be able to finish watching the Rumble. But hands down, yeah, for me it was Edge, and you guys made a very, very compelling argument, but you did not sway the voters. This one, duh. I
was worried there for a second. I was like, wait, it's not going to go to Edge?
I was talking to those two. It was not even close. 69.7% voted for Edge. The second closest was Becky Lynch's pregnancy announcement at 12.8. Undertaker and Sting, surprising to me, barely registered. But when you have something like that, you know, even Sting showing up in AEW really didn't compare, and that was great. Sting showing up and clearing the ring, that was phenomenal, but just not enough to knock off Edge.
Yeah, I don't know how many times I rewatched that number 22 in the Royal Rumble there.
I did the same thing that I did with the ending to Avengers Endgame. I watched that over and over again until my eyes didn't water up anymore. So at least 50 to 100 times I watched that up. I guarantee you, if I threw this on now after the show, my eyes would water up again
easily.
Just like they still do with Avengers Endgame. All right, so we had moment of the year. We're halfway through here, guys. Now it is time for match of the year, and this one got a lot of nominees. The two that led the way for the voting for us were the 2020 Royal Rumble, which we talked about. That got the most votes among the staff members. The Boneyard match, WrestleMania 36, The Undertaker versus AJ Styles. That was also a very close second amongst the staff. And then it got a little dicier from there. Well, again, 2-2, 3-3. I think I had to do a tiebreaker vote here as well. Sasha Banks and Bayley at Hell in a Cell, and then the Young Bucks versus Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page at AEW Revolution. Denise, I will let you start your match of the year.
Well, I already knew when I was voting that this match wasn't going to be on here because I knew for a fact that, you know, I know how people's opinions sway. So, but this was genuinely my match of the year because I popped for it, and it was kind of unexpected, I think, but I loved it so much. And it was definitely Rich Swann versus Eric Young, Bound for Glory. Their match I thought was phenomenal. I loved it so much. And I was kind of upset that, you know, a lot of people didn't respond to it the way I did. But at the end of the day, it was my match of the year, and that's all that matters.
For a second there, I thought you were going to say Fiend Goldberg, and I was going to immediately, cut you off.
Removed from the show.
John, don't even get a voice on the other. Jeremy, where are you going with this one? Your match of the year.
My match of the year was might have been the best tag team match I've ever seen, with the Bucks against Hangman and Kenny Omega. That, man, if it was even hard to put words into just how intense that match was. I hadn't felt this way watching a match since Gargano and Ciampa. That was and Gargano and Ciampa, literally, I was left literally staring at a blank TV screen for 10 minutes. That was how emotional that made me feel. This was not quite that emotional, but just the feelings I felt just watching this match was far and away my favorite one this year.
Jose?
Man, so there's so many matches this year that we can all really make a debate for and say that it's the best match of the year. I mean, why are we not talking about Survivor Series, Roman versus Drew? Why are we not talking about War Games, both women and men's matches? I mean, all those matches are great. But in my opinion, dude, when we're talking about, and NXT doesn't get the credit that they deserve, man, because they're such good workers, hard workers, and it's just something completely different than what we already get on Raw and SmackDown. But what we saw at War Games between the Undisputed Era and the Kings of NXT, and especially having Pat McAfee, and I know this wasn't nominated in the category, but what we saw from who's literally his second match in WWE, I mean, he did a hell of a performance, and that just elevated everybody else too, man. So I thought that match definitely should have been contended for match of the year. But out of the matches that were nominated, I voted for the 2020 Royal Rumble.
Again, that probably one of the best booked Royal Rumbles, and I had no problem with that making it up on the list. This is one that I went back and forth over. There were a lot of them. I'm a big Bray Wyatt guy. Everybody talked about the Boneyard match. I love the Firefly Funhouse match, and I know I'm in the minority on that one.
Actually, I'm going to scratch that. I'm going to go back to February of this year, back in Saudi Arabia.
Shut your mouth.
No, you didn't.
Just
do it.
Talking right now. But for me, I had a late entry into this one. Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns at TLC.
Oh yes, that was going to be my other one. Oh.
We voted on all of this before that match happened, so I had to throw it out there. That match was hard hitting. It was fun. I love watching Kevin Owens work. Him and Roman Reigns just absolutely painted a masterpiece with that TLC matchup. And then of course, you get Jey Uso in the end, but Kevin Owens is such the perfect, babyface to go up against Roman Reigns, because this is a guy that isn't going to fold the way that Jey Uso did. This is Roman Reigns has no leverage over Kevin Owens, and Kevin is going to fight until the end. He said it. You were literally going to have to kill me to beat me. And I loved this match so much, and they followed it up with a great cage match on SmackDown, although I didn't really like the whole handcuff ending, but it is what it is. And honestly, another one, just an honorable mention, Double or Nothing, Jon Moxley versus Mr. Brody Lee.
Mm-hmm.
I love that match. I love that match, and just with everything,
it's going to be tough.
Yeah, it's there's nothing more that I can honestly say right now than I just love that match. But for the fans out there, it came down to one match and one match only. At WrestleMania 36, it was The Undertaker and AJ Styles match of the year, a cinematic match in the cinematic era that is 2020. It was a landslide, folks. It was 41% went to Undertaker and AJ Styles. Denise, your reaction?
Come on. I like that match, but I didn't think it was match of the year. Let's be real.
It gave us meme of the year.
That's true, I guess. Not even meme of the year. What the heck? So, but you know what? I'm astounded here. You're telling me that we had rivalry of the year with Edge and Randy, but their match, greatest wrestling match ever, didn't make it as match of the year. What's going on here with the voters? What's happening?
That should have been match of the year.
Blame the SK writers. They're the ones who said, "Oh yeah, Edge and Randy Orton were great, just not that match." Maybe it was the billing. Honestly, maybe it was that billing. When you label something the greatest wrestling match ever, you are doomed to fail. And I genuinely enjoyed that match. I thought they delivered as well as they could, especially when they had
Was it even in your top 10 of the year?
In my top 10 of the year?
Probably not. Rick, when you sit down and you think about it, I'm sure it probably didn't even crack the top 10.
maybe top 10 WWE matches of the year.
Yeah, maybe you're right on that one. It didn't crack my top 5. I'll guarantee you that.
See, there you go.
Same
it
here.
was still fun. I still enjoyed it.
It was definitely a fun match, but I did want to say that I feel like not only just a boneyard match, but we had a ton of cinematic matches this year. That should have been a category in itself.
Yeah.
The Stadium Stampede was like literally the best cinematic match that we had. And then after that, I loved the Money in the Bank one.
Yes.
I thought those ones were better than the boneyard match.
I hated Money in the Bank.
Baron Corbin committing murder. Yes.
You're not fun, Rick. You're not fun.
Hey,
we can't forget about the we can't forget about the boner yard match from Talkin' Shop-A-Mania.
Oh yes.
Hey, if we're doing cinematic match of the year, it's Firefly Funhouse, and I will have no slander.
No, thumbs down. Come on.
Oh, hey, at least I didn't.
How was that not a category? We should have done that as a category.
At least I didn't say swamp fight, Denise. That would really.
Oh hell no! Oh heck no! That was terrible. That was so bad. I didn't even understand what I was seeing.
I love the ending, and that's the problem with a lot of Bray Wyatt matches is people just don't understand what they're watching sometimes. Anywho, so moving on now. This one I think is going to be a little bit controversial. Breakout wrestler of the year, and we had a lot of young and up and coming guys, but we also had one who has been here for a very, very long time. Our nominees were Darby Allin, Orange Cassidy, Dominic Mysterio, and Jey Uso. Jey Uso, who has been one of the best tag team wrestlers, one of the biggest stars in WWE for years, has been nominated by the SK staff as Breakout Superstar of the Year. You're all kind of shaking your heads. I'll go with Jeremy. You can start off here.
Well, my vote was originally for Pat McAfee. Look at what he did in 2 matches. Yeah. Look at what he's done on the microphone before that.
He's an
if he wants to keep with it, pure star. For me, it's Darby Allin, and you can see why. Just the feeling I get just having him in the same ring with Sting. It gets me excited to see the potential of the future, because Darby immediately reminded me of Jeff Hardy when I first saw him in the Indies, and I was just super excited to see him in AEW, and to see him deliver in AEW makes me very happy. So I got to go with Darby, but I will defend Jey Uso being in there. He does belong because he has broken out as a single star.
Jose.
Why are we not talking about the limitless one, Keith Lee? Why is he not in this category?
He didn't get enough votes.
Booking.
The writers. I mean, listen, there's no guy that's had, besides Drew McIntyre, in my opinion, I feel like Keith Lee has had one hell of a year. He became double champion. He moved up to Monday Night Raw. He immediately faced Randy Orton and defeated him in his first pay-per-view. I mean, the guy is on a hot run, and he has a championship opportunity coming up on Monday. So, I mean, he has a documentary this year. So Keith Lee, in my opinion, definitely breakout star of the year. But out of the nominees, I got to agree with Jeremy. Darby Allin has definitely broke out and became champion the latter part of the year, and now he's doing great things, man. And just like Jeremy said, I've been following actually Darby Allin pretty closely in the Indies myself. He actually trained locally here in Orlando, where I'm at, with one of the guys that I train with. So I actually got to meet him a few times and followed him and seen all of his stuff. And I'm just so proud of what he's been doing at AEW. So out of the 4, definitely Darby Allin on that.
I think Jeremy alluded to it. The problem with Keith Lee has been his booking. Yeah, he was the double champ for like a month because they made him relinquish one of them. And then he immediately lost it to Karrion Kross, and then Kross got hurt. And then they called him up, and he beat Randy Orton. And then they didn't let him win a match clean for what seemed like
DQ.
Till what, Monday when he beat Sheamus? Like, it has been a really, really long gap. So I think that's where, again, it's fresh in people's minds, and his booking kind of like really left a sour taste. I love Keith Lee. I agree with you. I think he had a hell of a year, even going all the way back to Survivor Series when he went toe to toe with Roman Reigns, and then Royal Rumble where he comes down and Brock just put him over with the facial expressions like, who's this MFer? And, doing a lot of stuff. That Royal Rumble was so good. And Brock really helped make that. So I think that's what worked against Keith Lee. I hear you guys' arguments for Darby Allin, but for me, it's Orange Cassidy. I just love that guy. I love him so much. He's so incredibly talented, and he's so unique. Like, there just isn't a character like him out there. I love watching him perform, whether he's trying in the ring or not. I love watching Orange Cassidy. I can't get enough of the freshly squeezed. Denise, who are you going with?
All your picks were lovely, just lovely. But mark my words, in a couple of years from now, maybe 3, 5, I don't know how many years, the star of all of wrestling is going to be Hangman Adam Page. And I think that he was completely overlooked in this breakout wrestler of the year, because he is one of those guys that has been having consistent work no matter what he's doing, no matter what he's involved in. And he is the person that I am so excited to see what he's going to do with his career. So Hangman Adam Page.
All right. And the winner went to, once again, somebody none of us said, Jey Uso.
Jay.
Good for Jey Uso, though. Good for him.
Won it in a landslide, 47.4% of the vote. Orange Cassidy was second. Darby Allin came in third. And Dominic Mysterio came in fourth. That's another person we didn't really bring up. But he did have again, I think it was just recent. He hasn't wrestled in a while.
You know what I find incredibly interesting, too? That all the worst booking decisions were all WWE, yet all of the awards are going to WWE people.
The voters must only watch WWE.
I was going to say, AEW stands, where you at? Like, where is voting at?
Real quick on
this awards.
Real quick on Orange Cassidy, it is so great to see the people that hated on him at first all of a sudden turn and see what he can do.
Yeah. Exactly. There are the people who see the lazy kicks for the first time. They're just sitting there going, "What the F is this? I don't get it." And I was one of them. I like, the first time I saw Orange Cassidy, I'm like, I don't get this. I don't get this at all. Now I love him, and I can't get enough of him. Jey Uso, I saw people put this out on Twitter, like, stop, mentioning him for breakout star of the year, because he's been there for so long. He's one of the most accomplished guys. But I get it. I get him being nominated because he has been able to break out and shine on his own. And look, this is a guy who's getting clean wins over AJ Styles, over Daniel Bryan. Main evented 6 straight weeks in a row. He was on a heater there for a while. Not so much anymore. He's kind of now relegated to Roman's bitch there a little bit. But
if we would go back to 1994, we would have called HBK a breakout star when he broke out from the Rockers, wouldn't we?
It's fair.
Good point. That's a good point.
So
I think people just, I don't know. He breakout can mean different things. It can mean, you breakout superstar. Maybe you break away from a mold that you've been in for a while. I mean, Jey Uso has always been seen as, he said it himself, which one are you, right? Like that's been the Usos, and now he's been able to break out and become a single star, and we'll see where that goes when his brother does get back.
I can accept Jey Uso as a breakout star. It makes sense to me.
All right. So we're going to move on now to the big 3. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about female wrestler of the year, male wrestler of the year, and promotion of the year. Let us start with female wrestler of the year. Denise, you have the honors on this one.
So I'm going first because I'm a lady. What is this?
I'm sorry, time out. I forgot to do the nominees.
That's sexist. That's sexist.
I forgot to do the nominees. Hang on, I got to do the nominees. The votes from the SK staff came in. The top 4, the top 3 came in a landslide. Should be no shock with these. Sasha Banks, Bayley, Io Shirai, and then coming in at 4th in the voting from the SK staff was Thunder Rosa. So now, Denise, you can take it away.
You know what? No, I should have gotten male wrestler of the year go first, Denise. Just kidding. But seriously though, honestly, by a landslide, it has to be Sasha Banks. And I think she's the one that has she's been on fire. This is her year. This has been her year. It's Sasha Banks. I don't know how else to say it. It's Sasha Banks.
I mean, Sasha has been, yeah, I mean, her October was absolutely on fire. She wins the SmackDown Women's Championship. She debuts on the Mandalorian, you know, October into November. So she's starting to break out as a mainstream.
I wasn't even including that. Thank you for bringing that up, because that is huge.
Yeah, she and Bayley together carried SmackDown. And there was a point during the summer where you could not turn on WWE programming without seeing Sasha Banks and Bayley, which is why if I had a coin, I would flip it right now, because I can't pick between the two of them. It's 1A and 1B. It's Sasha Banks and Bayley, because I think they have both been equally as successful. Bayley's run as SmackDown Women's Champion was tremendous. This is somebody who had, you know, the brass and the balls to go out and completely revamp her character, and took off with it and just made it her own. And I enjoyed watching her, and then her and Sasha together, and then her and Sasha splitting up. They've both been equally successful in my book. You could say either one, and I would be.
Rick, pause. You answered your own question. You mentioned the fact that Sasha Banks had this, you know, she was doing the Mandalorian stuff. I think with that alone, she crossed over into the mainstream realm. So I think if anything, that would probably put her one step above Bayley. And I love Bayley. I would have agreed with you, but I do think the fact that she, you know, became champion, that alone adds to her stock. And the fact that she did this Mandalorian stuff, that adds to her stock as well, in my opinion.
Yeah, she actually won all 3 championships this year. She won the Raw Women's Championship, she won the tag team titles, and she won the SmackDown Championship. Jose.
I gotta agree with Denise, man. Sasha Banks all day, man. Sasha Banks has had the best year, man. I mean, just like you said, she won all 3 championships, man, and she's been on the Mandalorian. There's no other female superstar hotter than Sasha Banks at this very moment. I don't even know why we're even debating this. I mean, it's Sasha Banks.
Jeremy, do you agree?
Yeah, you know, throughout this show, I've had a lot of differing votes from you guys, but not this time. My vote is Sasha Banks. The last year was Bayley's year. This year has been Sasha Banks' year. And hey, she defended a title this year, people.
Yeah.
Scott, I forgot about that already.
Twice.
Snapped it.
But
freak.
I mean, to me, Sasha's been the top woman for a while now, and now the booking has proved it. And I think she has the staying power of a champion now, finally. I don't know why it hadn't been previously that way, but I think she's going to be holding on to that title for a very long time.
And deservedly so. Are you guys ready to get mad? Because your winner SKammy of the year is Bayley.
What?
Bayley wins.
That's crazy.
This was
if it was going to be anybody else. I mean,
I'm not mad at it.
It wasn't even that close.
Really?
What?
It was 35.
Who are these voters, Rick?
It was 35.4 to 31.6. It was.
How can we all unanimously agree on one person in one stream, but yet have completely no? I can't accept this. And I love Bayley. I love Bayley, but I can't accept this.
I want to challenge the result of this voting method, because Sasha Banks got robbed. Sasha Banks just got robbed.
Faction of the year, wrestler of the year was closer. Faction of the year was a much closer vote than female star of the year, and it went to Bayley. Io Shirai got 25.9, 7.1 for Thunder Rosa. I was really happy to see Thunder Rosa get nominated, though.
Hey, love for the NWA champion there.
Yeah. All right, so we got the women down.
Suck the winds out of my sails, Rick. I'm just here like a deflated balloon now.
You know what I should have done? I should have put like a graphic of Lana up there or something like that.
Troll us all.
You know what? I was a really big fan of Lana's booking this year until they removed her from the TLC match. So whatever. Yay, Lana. Honorable mention. She's improving.
I like Lana, so
yeah, I like Lana too. Male wrestler of the year, and this was honestly a landslide for our 4 nominees. I'm not sure who else you could really pick when we put out the nominees out there. Drew McIntyre, Jon Moxley, Randy Orton, Roman Reigns. Jose, I will let you start.
Drew McIntyre, man, all day. That just like I said earlier in the broadcast, Drew McIntyre has had the best year in his career. He not only he lost the championship, but he regained it 2 weeks later. And the feud that he had with Randy Orton, definitely one of the most memorable rivalries I've seen in my 30 plus years of watching professional wrestling. So Drew McIntyre definitely gets superstar of the, or at least male superstar of the year in my choice.
Denise.
I have to agree with Jose. It's definitely Drew McIntyre, in my opinion, because again, we mentioned his accolades throughout this entire show, winning the Rumble. I mean, defeating Brock Lesnar, and then everything that he did with Randy Orton. I mean, and then let's just also bring out the fact that it's not easy being champion during COVID era. I mean, come on, the poor guy didn't even have the Thunderdome, at least that for like the first half of his like reign. So like he's had to he's missed out on some very awesome moments that all previous champions have been able to experience, and he hasn't been able to have that. And the guy has been like busting his hump trying to get over that obstacle. So I definitely have to give this one to Drew McIntyre.
Jeremy?
Well, here I come in to disagree, where I go with Jon Moxley. The company, AEW, starts off with a legendary champion in Chris Jericho, and then transitions into probably one of the best wrestlers of the present day in Jon Moxley, who had a tremendous 6-month reign as champion in a COVID era. AEW had a consistently good product, and Moxley had solid feuds all the way throughout. We already had mentioned one with Eddie Kingston in as a feud of the year. He had meaningful feuds all throughout, and at one point was until he got beat by Kenny Omega, was like 21-0 in 2020. So my nod goes to Jon Moxley here.
There was a point earlier in the year where I think if you polled wrestling people and they said who's the best wrestler in the world right now, a lot of them would have said Jon Moxley. He would have been hands down a #1 choice. He was white hot at the beginning of the year. And I think really the COVID era kind of cooled him off just a little bit, because he is one of those guys that feeds off of an audience, but he still did a fantastic job. For me though, originally I voted for Drew McIntyre. And
wait, you were allowed to change your votes, Rick? That is not fair.
Well,
we weren't given that option.
I'm changing it for a reason. It's a symbolic change. I'm voting for Mr. Brody Lee. Just this hit a lot of people really, really hard. And when you look at it, when this is a guy who unjustly was put on the bench for an incredibly long time, never properly utilized in WWE. I don't know how they didn't see special things in him. And then for him to finally get his release from the company, go to AEW, resurrect a faction that was, for all intents and purposes, dead, just wasn't getting over. And then within his first couple months of the company was competing for a world championship. And again, it was one of my votes for match of the year. Him and Jon Moxley put on an absolute banger in which he looked like an absolute monster. And you're thinking, things are finally going to go his way. He wins the TNT championship in a squash match. And then all of a sudden he comes back and get one of the other matches of the year that we didn't talk about, him and Cody Rhodes in the dog collar match. I mean, this is a guy who was, obviously loved. He meant a lot to this business, and he was having a tremendous 2020, the best year of his career. And then, this happens. So I'm symbolically changing my vote to Mr. BAYLEY. But the fans have decided, and they agree with half of the panel. Drew McIntyre is the SKammy Award winner for Male Wrestler of the Year. Oh. Are you behind? Are you behind there, Denise?
Yes, I'm here. Suck it, Jeremy. Suck it, Jeremy. We win.
One with a resounding 38.9% of the vote. Roman Reigns was second, and I think Roman Reigns, though, didn't talk about him a whole lot. He has done his best work and has done some of the best stuff that I've seen in wrestling. But I think it's a total package thing where Roman was gone for so many months and kind of had a not the best start to the year. Nobody was really talking about Roman Reigns at the start of the year. Just kind of got the match with Goldberg by saying, hey, I'm next. And, you know, everybody was still sour from that, you know, crap with the Fiend and whatever. And then, but his latter part of the year has been so good that it earned him a nomination, and it earned him a lot of the votes. What I think it was, I just clicked off of it, 29.6%. But for overall body of work, it has been Drew McIntyre for sure. And finally, we will close it out here, guys, with the big one. Promotion of the year, and the nominees, WWE and NXT combined. We're not separating the two. They're under the same umbrella. AEW, Impact Wrestling, and New Japan Pro Wrestling. Jose, you have the honor, sir.
Well, you know, 2020 not only has been an interesting year in professional wrestling, but we've got, as fans, we've gotten everything that we've wanted. You know, years ago, we wanted more wrestling. Now we have wrestling literally 5 days a week. All right.
Or six,
or six, depending on what you watch. But there's literally wrestling every single day of the week. WWE definitely dominates most of the days throughout the week. However, just because you have quantity doesn't mean you're delivering quality. So when it comes to quality programming and putting on good shows, I have to go with AEW. This has been, you know, they've only been on just a little bit over a year, and they've proved that they can hang with WWE. They've been pulling in some pretty good ratings every single Wednesday night up against NXT. So AEW, even though they're just a baby, I think they pulled out way better matches, way better rivalries, and way better promos than WWE. So my pick, All Elite Wrestling for promotion of the year.
Jose, I agree with you, but I don't. And I think the proof is in the nominees here, because when it comes to putting out, you know, the absolute best, and we're talking about matches and promos and superstars, nobody does the absolute best, the absolute pinnacle, the absolute creating events and creating moments the way WWE does. Their problem is sustaining it across their entire product. Because there has just been, yeah, we can look back and we say, oh man, the Boneyard match was great. And oh man, that Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns at TLC, that was fantastic. That entire TLC pay-per-view was fantastic. But what were we talking about, you know, in the weeks leading up to this? How bad Raw sucks because they're not putting a lot of, you know, effort. And we talked about how they don't explain things on television very much, and the writing constantly changes. If they could just find a way to be cohesive and actually stick to long-term booking, and, you know, they just aren't able to put together an entire product, but they do the best better than anybody. But when it comes to a sustained product, constant quality, yeah, you have to go to AEW on this one. They can't match WWE yet as far as putting on an event and putting on big matches and big moments of the year. They're close. They're getting there. WWE does it best, and we know that they can put on the best stuff, but they just don't do it often enough. And AEW has been quality for most of the year that I have to give them the nod on this one. Jeremy.
Yeah, unfortunately, due to COVID, you know, New Japan's been kind of hit. You know, I give props to Impact Wrestling. New management has made that a much better product this year. And with some of the new talent that has come over, Good Brothers, Heath, Brian Myers, it has infused it and made it even better. The second half of 2020 has been a very good year for Impact, so I give them a lot of props. WWE, the only consistent product, in my opinion, this year was SmackDown. NXT really, for a better, there was a good part of the year for me, NXT was boring. I think a lot of it was people getting called up. There was a lot of lulls in NXT, but there were some good parts as well. And Takeover was phenomenal as always. That they never have a bad Takeover. Raw has been we all know.
We know.
SmackDown was really the only consistent for WWE this year, and there's even been times where that's not been good. AEW has been consistently good throughout the year, and has put on some of the best matches of the year. And to me, hands down, is the promotion of the year for me, just because it's been consistently good in the hardest year to put together a product with nobody out there to root you on.
Denise, you have the final word.
So first of all, I'm going to be shocked if AEW wins, not because of the product, but because they have they won any awards yet here? So I'm expecting WWE to win.
It is a clean sweep for WWE so far.
That's what I'm saying. So it would be like hilarious to me if AEW wins this one. Actually, it would be funny as heck. But mine actually was New Japan, just because I kind of felt that, I saw, and this is judging just off of me and my preference, I saw some of the best matches this year in New Japan. So that is why I'm voting for them. And then also they actually were able to have people, and dang, like I miss people. I miss crowds. So I think that adds to that as well. So definitely my pick is New Japan.
All right. Well, the winner with a resounding 69.4% of the vote. Yeah.
Shocker.
Wow.
It would have been poetry if it had been AEW.
Okay, so seriously, are we surprised that AEW was shut out by the fan base here?
No. Based on everything else and every other winner in this category, I'm not surprised whatsoever.
No, but I'm saying overall, just the fact that WWE landslide.
Was the voting open to Stamford, Connecticut only, or?
It was open to anybody who follows us on social media. So again, we have Facebook, we have Twitter. I think we have an Instagram as well. Maybe, I don't know. We definitely have a YouTube channel.
You do have an Instagram. Rick, you should know this. You have an Instagram account.
No, I don't.
I just think
you don't have they have an Instagram.
I just think that probably the majority of the people that follow us on SK, they're probably just hardcore WWE fans or casual fans. I think that AEW is more tailored for like the hardcore fans like us, like that really pay attention to the product and to the business, and WWE is more commercial, so I think that's probably why.
It will be interesting to see, because I think AEW has made a tremendous leap from year 1 to year 2. They're really starting to build their own stars now. We talked about Darby Allin. We talked about Orange Cassidy. It was a lot of former WWE guys who were really leading the way in year 1. Now we got Kenny Omega as the champ. We got Darby as TNT champ. It's going to be interesting to see when we're all back here next year in December doing this show again, whether or not AEW is able to get in there and win some awards and Impact as well, because I think they're doing a tremendous job as well and deserved a lot more nominations than what they got. But hey, don't blame us. We only put up the nominees. Y'all were the ones who voted, and y'all are apparently a WWE crowd. Guys, we have gone way over our usual time. Surprise, surprise. But, when you got 4 people talking about 10 categories, that's bound to happen. I really appreciate you guys coming in and doing this. The first ever Skammies are in the books, and it's a clean sweep for WWE, for Jose G, for Denise Salcedo, for Jeremy Bennett. Guys, have a happy new year. Let's hope 2021 is a heck of a lot better than 2020. Have a good one, guys.